Disclaimer. The views, opinions, and statements expressed in this podcast are for informational, artistic, and entertainment purposes only. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the host, guests, or affiliated organizations. This podcast is not intended to provide legal, medical, or professional advice. While we aim to ensure that the information presented is accurate, we make no representations or warranties about the completeness, reliability, or suitability of the content. Any actions taken based on this content are done at the listener's own risk. The creators and contributors of this podcast disclaim all liability for any loss, damage, or harm resulting from the use or reliance on this content. Furthermore, the podcast may include discussions of sensitive topics which some listeners may find distressing. Listener discretion is advised. All music, content, and creative expressions featured in this podcast are intended to uplift marginalized voices and are protected under free speech and artistic expression rights.
Welcome back to AIPAC Zombies. We're here to bring you another sort of like rundown of someone in the culture who is pro-genocide, anti-humanity in general, and is kind of like a shill for Israel. And I am Toshio. I have another podcast called San Francisco that you may or may not have heard of. Please check it out, especially the episodes with Mama Ganoush. Some classic San Francisco episodes right there. And I also am a journalist in a more traditional way for about 20 years now.
And I am Mama Ganoush. I'm a trans Palestinian drag artist and performer. I am also the co-founder of the halacollective.com. Go check it out. AIPAC is basically in like street terms, it's the PAC that has the biggest money in American politics that runs your government for the sake of Israel and a bunch of rich people, not for the sake of the people. I would say like all the time, not even 90% of the time. And why are they zombies?
So the name comes from this concept that people who are, sucking from the teats of AIPAC. That's a weird way to put it.
Yes.
So
sucking on the AIPAC tits.
People who get like tons of donations from AIPAC are going to be possessed by Zionist brain rot, regardless of what other ideologies they might have. Israel is always going to sort of rise like cream to the top and be their first priority, supporting Israel and its mission as a genocidal force in the world.
Yes, and making money for the rich.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. So today, usually we go back and forth on preparation, but today I'm really excited to be the one who prepared.
Yes, me too. Stoked.
I am getting a full fellowship of Toshio's journalism. For people who doesn't know who Manny is, let's give you the breakdown why this is this whole tea. So give you the background. He is, as of this month, he is around 34 years old. So he's in his 30s. He is also raised ultra-Orthodox Jewish. Like his father is very much like a big Zionist believer. He's a rabbi. His father is a rabbi and head of the community. Based on what Manny told me in person and also how he speaks about his dad. And he went to school in Los Angeles in a very bougie school. OC people would know. It's called Harvard Westlake School.
Yeah, it's the fancy prep school where all the celebrities' kids go.
His undergrad was a Bachelor of Art in Poli-Science in the Williams College, Massachusetts. He graduated in 2011. He also, based on his claim to me personally, he did poli-science. He went to Sciences Po in Paris as part of his education. People assume Manny is like this person who's just a random coffee owner that's like, this progressive person. They don't understand that he is somebody with a lot of political education, political aspiration, and a highly like Zionist intention in everything he does. And we're going to talk about this. So career highlights for him: he interned in the White House at the Office of Public Engagement. I feel like a lot of poli-science kids do that. He did the Thomas J. Watson Fellowship. He was awarded like a fellowship to study LGBTQ rights movements in 6 countries over 12 months. Spy alert, just kidding.
Maybe.
Maybe, you never know. Political campaigns, he worked as a field organizer for Barack Obama 2012 re-election campaign in New Hampshire. He also served as a chief of staff for this immigration reform advocacy group. I don't know a lot about them. They're called forward.us.
Okay. Yeah, this is the Mark Zuckerberg and a bunch of other tech CEOs like founded this group that, from what I understand, like it was like a pro tech billionaire kind of, you have a bigger pool if you have all these people coming from overseas, and that makes your labor cheaper.
Oh my God. Okay. That's horrible. Because I worked in tech for a while. I worked in marketing and I worked in different places. And I remember people on H-1B visa, and people were so...
I said H1N and sorry.
H-1B visa?
It's H-1B, yeah.
They cannot do anything. They're terrified to leave. They work on weekends. Like, it's like insane. It's like basically a sweatshop for educated people, but also opportunities to bring a lot of like tech brains, I guess, from Israel. Because it happened. Like a lot of tech influence comes from India, but also comes from Israel.
Sure.
He also worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016.
Right.
So he worked on the finance team for the presidential election. So it's like a big deal, the finance and the, you know what I mean? Like he's not some like, you know, just a random cute like neighborhood, like boy next door, you know, who's like opened a cafe in the Mission. He also he was appointed to the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency, the MTA board of directors in 2020. Honestly, for no qualifications in transportation. And I know people that worked with him, and he was a big mess. Like he doesn't have, like, he's one of the most unliked people by the staff, but liked by London Breed and basically the money people and the mayor.
I never saw him on the bus.
Yeah.
Like,
I always see him on his little scooter with all these like boys.
So at what point, like I know that one thing that I do know about him is he was a fellow at StandWithUs.
Oh, I didn't know that. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he was one of the up-and-comers with StandWithUs, which basically is like a PR organization for Israel.
Oh, yeah, I knew
Zionism.
that. I didn't realize StandWithUs is the same name.
Yeah,
Tell me more about this.
Yeah, I mean, I know specifically, like, they do pinkwashing work. That's like one of the, his oeuvre, of course, would be pinkwashing work, where you're taking, like, basically stealing the valor of radical queer movements before you and using goodwill towards queer people in the service of Israel.
I know he was part of the Hasbara campaign, like he worked for the agency that run the PR campaign, but I didn't, now it's all clicked together.
I mean, StandWithUs, like, basically what they do is Hasbara.
Oh, that's like
believe.
their job. Is like StandWithUs as like Israelis. That makes sense. Wow. Okay. Love that it's like in public record.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that he's like trying. It's probably not on the Manny's website at this point because it's sketchy as hell.
It's sketchy to be part of this like pinkwashing campaign. Basically, pinkwashing is the way Israel has been targeting San Francisco, especially and other places around the world. For the past 19 years, it's an extension of a broader campaign that they did to normalize Israel and show it as a European nation. Like not European nation, it's the European nation in the Middle East. It is partially eugenics because Zionism is based on the eugenics ideology. It's based on eugenics basis, where Ashkenazi, which is European Jews, at the top of the pyramid and Black Jews at the bottom. They even have to like relearn the religion, but also to undermine and basically wash down the genocide they have been doing for Palestinians for 76 years and call Israel for what it is. It's an apartheid state that has been built on Palestinian native lands. Apartheid is actually like what it is right now, but in the beginning it was a colonial project. Because in apartheid, if you're like basically, they are segregating right now, but it started as a colony. Like it started similar to what the French did in Algeria and other places. And they have been, I mean, recently the past year killed over 150,000 Palestinians. That's like the sort of the accurate number, the estimated number versus what's the number is for the found bodies, which is over 50,000. That's still a lot of people. And they have been displaced 13.4 million Palestinians around the world. And I'm like mentioning this for people who maybe this is the first time they engage with this content and understand why Israel is just so evil.
Yeah.
And the Stand With Us is literally like the Hasbara is the campaign to normalize Israel in key cities and places to make sure that Israel economy thrives and continue to with the propaganda around Israel to make sure that people fall in love with Israel and fall in love with this colony that they built and dismisses the idea that Israel is a theocratic colonial system state that basically oppresses Palestinians and everyone else who's not white. Sorry, that was...
No, that's perfect. That's great.
I'm giving you my whole life in 2 minutes.
No, I think it's good to go back and just remember like this is like the cost of the genocide. Like,
and Manny wants to be the mayor of San Francisco. Right. Like he announced this to San Francisco Chronicle. He also right now preparing himself to be the new like district representative after Raphael Mendelssohn, major Zionist. This is like the Zionist seat, the Zionist gay Jewish seat. It was Scott Wiener. We have a whole episode about him, and then followed by Raphael Mendelssohn, who, like, you know, I went to his office. I told him they killed 178 at that time of my family members. I need your support for a ceasefire. I'm a district representative. He looked me in the eye. He didn't say apology for this or sorry for your loss. He said, I'm a Zionist. I have family there, and I care about the Jewish residents. And that was the most racist moment I've ever seen. That's the current District 8 representative where this lives. And the new person afterwards will be Manny. They're trying to like basically prepare Manny for this to preparation for the mayoral election because Raphael Mendelssohn thinks that this is like earned for like the Zionist gays. That's like the Zionist gay seat. And then achievements. He took the Small Business of the Year from the California State Senate, basically Scott Wiener in 2019. He also works with a nonprofit called Farming Hope. Which is basically they hire underpaid individuals experiencing homelessness or incarcerated individuals. So basically cheap labor. And that's like sort of the Wikipedia part of this. We want to like dive into one of the biggest things that Manny is doing right now. So we talked about his background. We talked about like his ideology as a Zionist. We'll talk about this for a moment. But Manny's also the founder of the Civic Joy Fund.
Right.
And the people who doesn't know it, the like sort of the old people name is like Civic Joy Fund. I don't know how they don't have anyone to do their branding, I guess. Apparently. They should go to Stand With Us and do some branding there. The Civic Joy Fund is a fund that basically owns the nightlife in San Francisco and any form of civic engagement at this point. That is mainly funded by 5 major Zionist families in San Francisco and and individuals. The first person is Daniel Lurie. He's the heir of Brian Lurie and the Strauss family. They are the founders of the New Israel Fund. It's a fund that has been planting trees in occupied Palestine and getting people to sponsor trees in Israel, whatever, for the past 30 years. They spent $300 million on Israel just the past like few years. Daniel Lurie is currently the mayor of San Francisco. Unfortunately, he won the mayorship with his own money. And we're gonna have a whole rundown on this family and this like very, very major Zionist family in San Francisco that's very pro-Israel. The second one is Andrew Monicus, the Germanicus Foundation. Andrew Monicus is the one who founded this program called Hebrew Year Abroad, where she sends students into Palestine to basically indoctrinate them into Zionism in a language exchange program in occupied territories in Palestine.
I mean, the amount of money that you have to be able to like support someone flying over there for a year, it's amazing.
For the Hebrew College in Palestine, in occupied Palestine, in Israel, whatever, in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. And then the third person is Chris Larson, who's a tech billionaire. He is the one who funded a lot of like Cup City propositions. He wants affordable housing for Cups in the Mission and other areas, not for the people literally cannot even sleep on the streets anymore. And he's a major Zionist with like very pro Netanyahu, very, very offensive way of actually targeting like people like Jackie Fielders, like local politicians and local people and celebrities and everyone else who like comes up to support of Palestine. The fourth person is the Swiggs family. And Adam Swig, who also have another company called Value Culture. The Swig's family, who doesn't know, Sissy Swig, the mother, is one of the co-shares of the AIPAC in San Francisco. And this is one of the oldest Zionist old money. But the Pritzkers are also another major Zionist family. Like one of the cousins of the founders of the Civic Joy Fund is the old governor of Illinois, who basically made sure that Israel is boycotting Israel is like illegal in the Constitution of Illinois. And also the other person is one of the key people who made Obama actually lean into AIPAC. So her job was basically to make Obama lean more into AIPAC because he wasn't in the beginning of his presidency. These are both the cousins, basically, of the...
Yeah, no, the Pritzker dynasty is... I mean, they have...
Like UCSF, all the work that we're doing, all these Pritzker Foundation founds a lot of money at UCSF and other medical institutions.
You can go to like colleges all over the country and you will find the Pritzker name on a building somewhere.
And that's why none of them could easily go against divestment of genocidal state like Israel or any other pro-war things because of the Pritzker Foundation.
Right.
So the Pritzkers are one of the founders of this the Civic Joy Fund. And then Visa, of course, which is another like mega corporation. Evo is another one of the main founders. The Civic Joy Fund is a way to control the narrative in San Francisco and actually continue on the pinkwashing campaign that it seems like Manny was officially like working for them before. In San Francisco, they run events like drag, SF is drag, the downtown First Thursday that unfortunately is created by, you know, a lot of other queer folks that people might assume that they are radical queers, but honestly they're not. Downtown First Thursday, he also, other parties around San Francisco, like for example, like a lot of the Pride activation, a lot of it was given by the Civic Joy Fund. And also Manny is spreading out Manny's, whose coffee shop that is made for civil engagement. In that civil engagement, the space where the Manny coffee shop that Manny owns, he hosts a lot of like trainings by somebody like Danny Zillig. He was an IOF Golani Brigade officer, a commander, who was the Golani unit. Based on the time that this person was serving in the Israeli army, they are the responsible for the Sabra al-Shatila massacre in 1984, where Israel like killed thousands and thousands of civilians. And that person still trains SFPD, and he goes to Manny's for training. He's a very good friend with Manny's. Other IOF soldiers, like ex-IOF soldiers like Eli from Everyday Retreats. It's like an Israeli ex-IOF soldier who's a very close friend with Manny's, who also runs Airbnb businesses in occupied territories in Palestine and in California. He also have a lot of events. He hosts a lot of events for JCRC, which people who doesn't know what JCRC is the Jewish Center for Zionists, I would call it. Like, it's a center that represents basically Israeli
interests here in the Bay. Yeah, it's like the Death Star.
Yeah, and they're like
Zionists,
the Death Stars for Zionists, basically. And Proud Boys, somehow they're connected at this point. I don't know, like. And AGC, which is another also mega Zionist organization that they have, I mean, sort of every city, I guess, in America has a form of JCRC or AGC, every major city.
Yeah.
It's like the Zionist center, basically. So these are just part of some of the events that he runs and he kind of endorses in his coffee shop. And also the Civic Joy Fund, which is a mega Zionist fund. It's basically like an advertising campaign for all these Zionist individuals.
Yeah.
All of them are like young people, and like these are the heirs of these families, plus like Chris Larson, who's another douchebag. But all of them are like, you know, like hang out together and like, you know, do this little fund where they do like a really, it's not like an idiot thing. It's more about like it's a way to normalize like Israel.
Right.
And pro-Israeli narrative in the gay and the liberal scenes and the gay community and the nightlife community in general. And this is an easy way for you to get loved by everybody to be a mayor. In addition, that Manny is very good friend with the SF San Francisco chief of police. They call each other. He told me that before. And he has a very good friendship with them because his cafe was responsible for this campaign that Chris Larson was doing to provide affordable housing for cops in the neighborhood that is mainly a Latinx neighborhood.
Cops that like make more money than any other public servants.
Yeah. So they're like living with you. Cops who make more than they make six figures. Cops in San Francisco make like $120,000. That's like with all the different incentives and things like that.
I mean, many will make, I think it's up to like about $500,000 just in overtime. Some of them are taking so much overtime. There was like a study that just came out around that we did some content on San Francisco. But for, what you're saying about Civic Joy Fund and it being like a normalization project, I also think of it as like a sort of hush money project for artists because, I mean, artists in San Francisco are dealing with super expensive rent, high cost of living. It's really hard to get by here as an artist. And so when you are offered a job, that's not something that you probably pass up very easily. And so here come like 5 billionaires with like all this money that they can like hand out. And a lot of these artists who maybe in some cases like they're only like making they're only making like a little bit of money off of their art each year.
Even like small merchants, because the Civic Joy Fund, they give you grants basically to do things, specific things, and they work with you on like this grant. And they take it away from the city. So the city doesn't give you the grant anymore. The Civic Joy Fund give you more grants. And this way you are more, you know what I mean? You're more liable to them.
Yeah.
But they also do all the markets, all the neighborhood, like the Castro Night Market, the Chinatown Night Market, one of them.
Right.
There's a lot of night markets, but there's always been markets. That's the thing. Like the Civic Joy Fund is just coming to repurpose what was there already and make it them theirs.
Right.
They also do a lot of like
it's like cultural capture.
yes. It is like what basically he started as a fellow, I guess, in like StandWithUs. He's doing his job, doing a really good job with the Civic Joy Fund to make sure, as an artist, especially if you're doing drag, especially if you're like doing nightlife stuff, you're underpaid so much in San Francisco compared to the cost of living. So regardless whether the artists like it or not, they kind of have to work with Manny at some point. And some of them kind of maybe convince themselves. I tell you, it's okay if you're an artist and you don't have a lot of money that you have to take money from like an evil power like this. If you could use your platform for like liberation for Palestine and other things that they are working so hard to dismiss, please do. But I'm not like calling out artists. I'm not calling out the people that they use as entertainment for the bourgeoisie. I'm talking about the bourgeoisie. This podcast is not about the artists. It's about the funders and the people behind all of that garbage. Because artists, like, they always worked for the entertainment of the bourgeoisie. Unfortunately, these bourgeoisie are colonials. That's my point of view. It's not everybody's point of view. But honestly, I feel, coming from drag and understanding the struggle, a lot of the times you just don't have a lot of options.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. I think you still have, a lot of artists who don't want to fuck with Manny regardless. Yeah. I mean, it's just...
Because the money he gives us not that much either.
It's true. And that's the unfortunate thing is like a lot of the, like, even whether we're talking about politicians or artists or other people who have like effects on the culture, in so many cases, like they're like AIPAC or whatever organization that's Zionist that's funding them is giving like a relatively small amount. And that always kind of shocks me.
It gives them basically like the basics of what you would pay an artist in a normal life if we don't live in this like shithole of a country. Because in drag, you get $30 for a drag number. $30 if you're doing one drag number, $60 for two drag numbers for 3 hours worth of work if you don't discount the 3 hours of makeup.
Right.
Like musicians and artists and bands actually make less money than drag queens. I don't know how much they make. They basically make nothing.
Yeah.
And when somebody like Manny gives them $250 to dance on the street, That's what he did to the drag artists. Have
Yeah.
them dance. A lot of them are disabled, cutie BIPOC. Dance in like very hyped areas of San Francisco that actually doesn't feel safe to a lot of trans
Yeah.
people. And give them $250 to dance as your street off. It's like, it's so humiliating, and call it like a handout or a good thing. The Civic Joy Fund did like this downtown First Thursday, and a lot of people start pointing out of it when they realize it's Manny funded and the Civic Joy funded. However, they went out of their way bringing like international DJs into San Francisco.
I know, like people who, they will absolutely do that. Like bring in people who would not know about the boycott, for example, because they're not from San Francisco.
Or the Bangara dance. Like there's a Bangara party that now it became like a Thursday party with downtown First Thursday. It's another Zionist way of like, hiding behind others and doing things.
Right.
Where most of the night scene in San Francisco, the funders at this point is dependent on Civic Joy Fund and Manny. This is problematic.
Yeah.
Because these are the biggest Zionist family. None of the founders I just mentioned, they are not like hella Zionists. It's not like one of them is not, the rest are. Literally, every single one of them is like, comes not just a Zionist, from a major pro-Israeli family who invested so much money in Israel.
Yeah.
By somebody who has been working for the pinkwashing campaign.
Yep.
I personally, where people, I don't know if they know this or not, I reached out to Manny, and he connected multiple times, and I reached out to him and I was like, you know what, you want to talk? Let's talk. And he like cornered me in one of the spaces in the Castro. It's an open space. So we sat down together for around 3 hours, and I had very clarity from him on his position on Zionism. Like, forget about all this resume that we just listed. That happened after the genocide. That happened recently, like a few months ago, after I personally lost 211 family members now, like in this genocide, in addition to like my grandfather, a lot of people I lost since 1948 in a genocide from Israelis. And Manny sat with me and looked me in the eye. He told me that he is a Zionist. He told me that he's a Zionist that believe that Palestinians, that's our 1948 Palestinians that were displaced from Jaffa and occupied Palestine, don't have the right to return, because other people who colonized built their life on this land for the past 76 years, as if it's my problem that I was genocided out of my land. Like the concept of land back is not there at all. And then the other Palestinians should be just sort of like contained in West Bank and Gaza, because he told me he's very afraid of the violence that Palestinians could do if these borders are opened. And that was very racist, because I called him like, this is really racist. Like, do you think a Palestinian educated family would like send their children and like go out of their way to, you don't know Palestinians. I don't think you have Palestinian friends, or you don't even know anything about the people that you are colonizing with your entire family for a very long time. And it seems like a lot of people that with your family name are active soldiers and officers in the IOF army. Maybe one of them is your father or your uncle, because you never share this information in details. Nobody knows who actually your parents are, except like your mom had this like hella Zionist, hella pro-Israel like posts on Facebook that we found that was like years ago, that of course like we can't find anymore. I mean, do your research, whoever is listening to this. But he told me this, and that was really hurtful. Like I felt I don't know what I'm doing there. And then I also asked him about the genocide, and I told him like, why are you not saying the word genocide? The UN said it's a genocide. And he said, I don't think it is. And then he told me that when he went to Jerusalem and he had an emotional experience, and he felt like every Jewish person who felt this emotional experience should have the right to live in Palestine. And I was like, so what about the Catholics? If they go to the Vatican and have an emotional experience, like, can some dude from Connecticut go to the Vatican? I was like, oh my God, I had an emotional experience. And now I have to kick out all the Italians and take on their lands? Or is it because Palestinians are brown? And I literally told him that. And he wasn't able to answer that, because it is clear, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a white person claiming that I don't really know. Like, I mean, he is socialized as a white person. I don't know how people perceive him in Israel, but I don't know. I don't care, honestly. Like, I don't care about this eugenics like titles and categories that he decided to be part of for being a Zionist. But these are things that are clearly, he told me. The other thing also, he told me that he's opening other Manny's, small Manny's in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Which also means to me, if you live in Los Angeles or live in California in general, this person is after like a state level power, not just mayorship.
Yeah.
So if you're opening that little, like, you know, civic engagement where you raise money by Zionists for Zionists, and host IOF soldiers trainings, and then call it like a progressive space, because I don't know, you have like some like sellouts from like other places that show up, or other people who doesn't know about Manny, you know what I mean, about the place at all, that doesn't qualify as a progressive. You are still a Zionist who clearly does not acknowledge like the Palestinian genocide, and also continue celebrating the Israel Independent Day, which is the Nakba, the day of the Nakba.
Right.
Many parties all the time on this. And unfortunately, he's the head of the Chamber of Commerce in Valencia, where it's a major street, like major market street in a market street basically in San Francisco, that is highly gentrified by people like Manny and others, and like using their spaces as your own, you know. So that's an extremely entitled person who just assumes that this is his city now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And unfortunately, he might be able to win like a mayorship, or like similar, or like a seat, the district seat, like Raphael Mendelman, Scott Wiener, or even Daniel Laurie.
He has like that schmoozy sort of personality that,
and he has the same money
I associate with Capitol Hill. And he worked for Hillary Clinton. Of course he did, because he's got that persona.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying when you're talking about like the colonization of Palestine, a lot of people have made connections to sort of the same attitude that he takes to the mission, or potentially next to LA, which is like, you know, not on the same level of like death and destruction, but he is bringing that same attitude of like being a straight up colonizer to the mission. And a lot of people have called him out for that. Starting when Manny's opened back in 2017, I believe, a bunch of groups like Queers Undermining Israeli Terrorism, Gay Shame locally, were out there on a weekly basis protesting to bring attention to the fact that not only was this a Zionist, but this was also a person who was bringing his sort of gentrification model into the bottom floor of low-income housing.
Yeah, I'm just kind of questioning here, because based on his background, it seems like he's somebody who's really have high aspirations for politics, is a believer in Zionism. Like, he is a believer. Like, he believes that every single Jew who goes to Palestine have an emotional connection, have the right to settle, where Palestinians don't have the right to go back to their land, or like live outside of the jails that they put for them in the West Bank and Gaza. He does not acknowledge that this is a genocide. You know what I mean? And he did like, it's like, it's not just about the genocide, it's also about the gentrification of the neighborhood. And I would love to actually, I know that you had a lot of like work done in reporting and like journalism around this. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the gentrification aspect too?
Sure. I mean, he came
NIMBYism, and how he's connected to all of these.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is the space where he settled on in the mission. So it's 16th and Valencia, like at the bottom again of a low-income housing building. And unfortunately, the organization that owns and operates that building, Mission Housing, the head is named Sam Moss, and he is a big YIMBY. YIMBYism is a pro-real estate, capitalism as pertains to housing project.
Yeah. It basically prioritizes big corporations who owns properties versus the right of the tenants. And it's a big cause of, it was introduced as a solution to solve housing in San Francisco, where it is actually a way to continue kicking people of color off this on the streets.
It's a
and
very
continue to serve
trickle-down.
Vanguard and other big property companies.
For sure. Yeah. Big trickle-down economics sort of solution
And
to the
Scott
housing
Wiener
crisis.
is one of the key players. in
Yeah.
this.
I mean, San Francisco was
It's
sort
another
of
episode
like,
about him.
yeah, a hotbed for YIMBYism.
Yeah.
It's like maybe the birthplace of
Yeah.
the YIMBY movement, which is now like it's funded by big tech and big real estate, although like, you know.
But there's a
real
lot of
estate is
examples of many.
all kind of.
I feel like I don't know if there's a lot of people that are good at hiding their like they're honestly the all of these things like Manny does. Like I had a post where I asked people, did you know Manny's involvement with all of these things?
Yeah.
This is all public information, by the way, including what he told me that was in a public space in front of people, in front of other folks. And he's just really good at convincing or hiding that a lot of people who are progressive, a lot of people are actually very pro-Palestine, a lot of people that don't support like an Israeli genocidal state will show up to his events and his coffee shop, and they have no idea that he is somebody who actually, including me, I didn't know that he actually worked for StandWithUs. That's insane to me.
Yeah.
That by itself equals that he is part of this pinkwashing propaganda, not based on all of that. He literally worked for the company that does the pinkwashing propaganda.
Yeah.
Like, that is insane to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's super purposeful.
Yeah.
He is very intentional about
Yeah.
his woke washing is another
Yeah.
term that people use to describe the cafe.
I want to talk about the cafe also in terms of how he treats people of color. So I have friends who works at Manny's and at one of his coffee shop. The reason why they work there is because they are immigrants who are brown, and they don't have a lot of job opportunities, and they don't have any other options really but to work for Manny. They are paid the minimum wage, like the minimum wage.
Yep.
They also, Manny on October 8th, next day, he kind of asked all his staff, all these brown people that works for him, some of them were incarcerated, some of them were unhoused. This is the only job that they could find, basically, and it's cheap labor for him. Somebody who has a lot of money, like he could pay them way more than the minimum wage, kind of forced them to have a pro-Israel stand.
Mm-hmm.
And then he claims that, that this is like, that this is a civic engagement, and this is basically like, you know what I mean? Like, when you bring all these brown people that work for you and all these like unhoused people and all these incarcerated people, tell them like, you have to stand for, the genocidal state of Israel in a time like this. And like, that by itself is a very good indication of what sort of a person he is.
Yeah.
Even if none of what we just said was there. You know what I mean? Like, every single part about Manny equals a huge red flag. And I'm just reaching out for, honestly, for people like, the reason why Manny is a very local thing in San Francisco, why we brought this up in a podcast that we're aiming for a national reach, is that there's a lot of Manny's in your city. Like, there is, Manny is opening in Los Angeles, but you in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or Denver or any other North Carolina cities, in Raleigh, North Carolina, anywhere in this country, you would have someone like Manny.
Mm-hmm.
You might have someone like Manny.
Yeah.
So just, be mindful, do your research. If somebody's so hesitant to say the word genocide, or somebody who have worked for StandWithUs, you know what I mean? Like, or have like a fund
not
given
just
by
that.
Zionist billionaires.
Like clearly, I mean, part of it was probably connections that he made, StandWithUs, but like he has hosted like these bigwigs in politics who fall for his, either are aligned with him.
Oh yeah, what celebrities were at Manny's?
Let's
talk about the celebrities.
His schmoozy personality.
Like, I know JCRC, AGC found like a big part of the chambers of AGC and JCRC. They do a lot of events there. Scott Wiener did like a whole workshop about how not to bully your had a whole thing about like how Zionism is cool.
Yep.
That was a workshop for Manny. And also they did like a debate. Manny did a debate, not a debate, sorry, like a panel thing of how not to be a bully for your landlord.
Right, a pro landlord. Like,
Who
let's be
bullies
nice
who?
to our landlords.
Most of the landlords in San Francisco are property management. They are big companies. They're not like moms and pops shops, or people.
I mean, like one of the like things that is striking is how quickly he was able to get people like Nancy Pelosi, like Kamala Harris, like Jill Biden, the wife of Joe Biden, either into his cafe or at like a local event where he was hosting.
He hosted the fundraisers for Kamala Harris. He appeals to liberals or neoliberals, I would say. Actually, he's more of a conservative center. What I'm saying is that Manny is conservative.
Yeah.
Not because he's gay, not because he says some things. If you're somebody who doesn't believe Palestinians have the life to exist, or have the right to go or have a land back, or you're working on campaigning to make sure you're purposely somebody who were educated in the best schools in the world knows that you're purposely washing down Israel's genocide and your entire career was built on that, whether you're a believer or not, you are, for me, somebody who supports colonialism, supports gentrification. Somebody who looked down at the workers that works for you, and other horror stories that I heard about Manny, but I don't want to like bring that up here. But I mean, like, it's because it's not my place to do that. But there's a lot of things about not just your person, but also your politics. Yes, people could have mistakes. We all have mistakes. We all have not all of us are that narcissist, but some of us have like narcissism. But the impact of Manny, based on the amount of money he has access to, based on the influence he has in San Francisco politics, California politics, and American politics. You know what I mean? Like, that person was running fundraisers for mega, like, Zionist Democrats, basically.
But guess where he was on October 6th, 7th, 8th? He was in Israel.
Yeah.
And as soon as he got back to the U.S., he had an immediate line to the press. He was all over media.
He actually talked to the press even from Israel.
That's true.
Yeah. He was talking to like the press on Israel.
And then, soon after, once he was back in California, he was the go-to interviewee for a bunch of, news stations who, of course, like to speak to, this is like a local small business owner, Manny, who's just giving his 2 cents on a tough situation.
He's not a small business owner.
No.
He runs a fund for millions of dollars with the biggest Zionist families in San Francisco.
I mean,
he worked in politics since he was born.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned some of the people that he's connected. He's,
he wants to run for mayor.
He wants to run for mayor.
He said that.
He hosts these fools like Gary Tan, who's a big tech CEO influencer.
We have an episode about him too.
Correct. Yeah, check that out.
And Zombie.
I mean, people IDF soldiers. He'll host Sam Bankman-Fried, who's the big crypto, the billionaire that went down last year for swindling people out of millions and millions of dollars. And he also locally in San Francisco, he's very into hosting the police chief and hosting what he called the A gays. So he had a night with Raphael Mandelman.
Yeah, he's very good friends.
There has been an ongoing boycott that's been called out by a bunch of local queer organizations
since 2018.
Yeah, and people have to their credit, there have been people who have respected not crossing the line. I remember Ai-jen Poo from the Domestic Workers Union didn't cross that line. Davey D, who does Hard Knock Radio in the East Bay. So yeah, I mean, I think if continue respecting that boycott, I'm not sure why anyone would want to hang out with a smarmy character such as Manny. But
if one thing that he did for me as a person, if a business is hosting JCRC events, AGC events, is a business calling Palestinian food Israeli, is a business is owned by somebody who kind of wanted to force all these brown people he has power over and all these like poor people that he hires on minimum wage to like say a stand about like a genocidal state of Israel. Like just one of these reasons will let me stop working with them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like one thing about this person ideology of like saying that you don't belong. I am from Jaffa. Like this is where my father's from. You're telling me personally that I don't have the right to go back to my hometown, but you have the right, if whatever you are, where you are, if you grew up in Paris and you don't have, I don't think there's a Holocaust in Paris right now, but if you grew up in Paris or you grew up in anywhere else in the world, you have the right to go to Palestine and colonize as long as you have a spiritual connection. You know what I mean? This is like what colonizers say.
There are so many reasons to dislike this character,
Yeah.
whether it's genocide, whether it's gentrification, whether it is apparently, you know, like being super disrespectful to people on the street and talking about their cocks.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, like this kind of behavior is what do I associate now with Zionists.
But what are we as Palestinians for Zionists? I don't mean specifically for Manny, but if you think about it, like there's no remorse towards the killing of all these Palestinians in Gaza. Like when they do interviews with a lot of Israelis, unfortunately, liberal ones, all of the liberal Israelis, all the liberal Zionists in Israel voted for killing UNRWA, which is the only way to save Palestinians. They voted for like the continuation of the genocide in Gaza. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you have interviews with people, they don't like, there's no children in Gaza. We're animals. So yes, our bodies as Palestinians are okay for some dude, whether he's gay, whatever the person is. Yes, our bodies is fetishized by people. I don't mean like many specifically, but people like in that sort of like mindset, similar mindsets. Our bodies are fetishized. Our lands are I guess their right to own. You know what I mean? Our neighborhoods is the right to gentrify. Our political system is the right to take over. You know what I mean? Our nightlife, our queer artists, all of that is sort of like his right, I guess.
Yeah, and his for the taking is in his mind.
And honestly, if this is your vibe, you have to be known for it. You don't have to be known as the progressive, like small business owner in San Francisco. And I'm sure there is others like that person in your city. Like just do your research, you know what I mean? And make sure you don't engage with their business. Yeah. And their made-up politics.
I mean, we might have to go just through the Stand With Us fellows list at some point.
Yeah, if somebody worked for Stand With Us, like somebody actually worked for the pinkwashing campaign, dude, like, come on.
Yeah.
We can't do that. Like, this is hella creepy.
I feel like this is someone who there will be a part 2, part 3, part 4. Until I mean, I don't wish this upon any other city, but you know, like until he moves to LA, we're gonna keep talking about Manny, unfortunately,
or just continue as it is, like operate as a conservative Zionist, pro-Israel business owner who's running a fund that is extremely pro-Israel, funded by pro-Israeli families. That's what he is.
Yeah, and I mean, people should continue to respect the boycott.
Yeah. But Toshio, so I really think, based on what Manny told me, that he is a Zionist. He's a believer Zionist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He is a believer. So I really believe he's not an AIPAC zombie. He's an AIPAC Frankenstein, which means somebody who uses like AIPAC power to make people, like to basically recruit people for to support like this Zionist ideology, or at least make it liked for them, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. I mean, whether you're like, unfortunately, like him coming out and telling all his workers, like, you got to support Israel.
Yeah.
On October
the people who works
7th,
for him.
October 8th.
You know how humiliating this is?
I mean, it's just, it's like, fuck bosses like that.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, That's
and
some
it's
bullshit.
minimum wage. They don't give you a lot of money. And the food also sucks. People told me, anyways. But even if the food is great, even if this is the best place in the whole world, it's still not because you're supporting that person.
Yeah.
Anyways, at least from my point of view.
And mine. Yeah, I second that. Emotion.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. And if you have any other tidbits about Manny that you want to share,
or if you have a Manny in your hometown, let us know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.